concluded after the interview, he still wasn't smart enough for her. So she made a choice, all right. She chose to remain single, as the Quran, Islam's scripture, gives all women the option to do. You won't hear too many ayatollahs whipping out that passage. Ripping it out, metaphorically speaking, of course, but not referencing it. Now, to give Muslim men credit, this was also the time I learned that the Prophet Muhammad, in his farewell sermon, declared women to be the partners, not the property of men. And maybe most intriguing of all, at least for a budding young feminist like me, I discovered that the first European feminist, may have been a Muslim man. You see, 1,000 years ago, the peninsula that you and I now call Spain was ruled by Muslims. And during that time, an Islamic philosopher named Ibn Rushd, after whom, by the way, Salman Rushdie's father renamed the family, Ibn Rushd told the religious fanatics of his day, most of whom were Christian, that the reason women's ability is not yet fully known is that they are reduced to the business of procreating, breastfeeding, and child-rearing. Not that there's anything wrong with those things, it's just that he was pointing out that when given the choice, women are capable of that much more. And he went on to tell the Christians that among the reasons great civilizations collapse into poverty is that they treat women as if they're a burden on men. A lesson, I dare say, many Muslim, Catholic, and Hindu majority countries could stand to relearn. Now, what I found fascinating about this entire period of self-study is that I would have never been introduced to these positive aspects of my religion had I remained insulated in the religious school. Thank God for the public library. Thank God for freedom of information, I say, far from diluting my faith, which is what my madrasa teacher feared would happen. Freedom of information saved my faith in Islam. But it did something more, this freedom of information. It transformed me from a person of faith into a person of conscience. Let me explain what I mean. Fast forward 20 years later. It's December of the year 2000, so about 8 months before 9/11. I'm a successful television producer in Toronto, creating one of that city's top-rated current affairs programs. Now, anybody who does television knows how brutal the month of December can be, because you have got to kick it into overdrive to get as many episodes of your program finished, into the can, and ready to air precisely so you can take the Christmas break. And hey, as a Muslim, I wanted to, pay tribute to my fellow monotheists, the Christians, by taking Jesus' birthday off. It's true. As a matter of fact, I think this was the year that the secular Jewish holiday of Hanukkah coincided with Christmas, and look, as a statement of solidarity among monotheists, I needed to take that entire week off. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. The point is that this one December afternoon, I was utterly exhausted from nose to the grindstone work, and I desperately needed a distraction from my immediate deadlines. Well, I found it in the form of an envelope sitting on my desk at work. Now, I should tell you, that envelope had my boss's handwriting on it, and my boss didn't give Christmas bonuses, either early or at all. So what was this? Am I fired? I nervously walked over to the envelope, opened it up, reached inside, and pulled out this newspaper clipping. I know you can't quite see it, but I'll tell you exactly what it says. This clipping told the story of a 17-year-old Muslim girl in northern Nigeria. She stood accused of having premarital sex, a felony worthy of a severe whipping under her government's strict interpretation of Islamic law, even though she'd actually proved that she'd been raped. And in bright red ink on the side of the clipping, my boss asked me a question. Irshad, one of these days, will you tell me how you reconcile this kind of insanity with your Muslim faith? Well, I don't know about any of you, but when I'm massively sleep deprived, I don't need the mother of all moral burdens thrust on my shoulders, okay? I just don't. So I neatly folded up the clipping, slipped it back into the envelope, pushed the envelope away, and muttered under my breath, "Go to hell." Who are you to be questioning my religion? The problem with that answer was it amounted to a cop-out, an excuse for passivity and denial. And my conscience told me so. Hours later, I had to wrestle with the fact that something was eating away at my soul. I had to contend with what had just happened. And what had happened was this. My identity as a Muslim told me to get defensive. Very easy to do in a multiculturalist age, right? But my integrity as a human being told me exactly the opposite. My integrity told me it was right to ask this question out loud. And it was right for my conscience to be shaken by it. Wouldn't yours have been? Some of you have 17-year-old daughters, some of you have 17-year-old sisters. We're talking about a teenage girl. Her dignity already violated by the fact that she'd been raped. And let me tell you something about courage. Here's what I haven't yet shared with you about this one. She went to the trouble of rounding up not one, not even 4, but 7 witnesses to the crime against her. And still, she was condemned to 100 lashes. Reduced, by the way, from 180. How's that for justice? Not good enough. Not good enough for me as a Muslim. Not good enough for me as a person of conscience. And when I realized that, another question began to form. What else is happening to the women of Islam today in the name of Islam today? And from the months and months of journalistic research that I conducted about that question, let me share with you just a few points that stick with me to this day and continue to drive my mission for universal human rights.